district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There's a time for public participation during the regular meeting. Mrs. Petter, please call the roll.
Mr. Simons?
Present.
Mrs. Kessler?
Here.
Mrs. Weider?
Here.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Here.
Mrs. Moore?
Here.
Very good. Now we will say the Pledge of Allegiance led by Superintendent Card.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Need a motion for approval or revision of the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Weider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes. Moving to recognitions, number 2. Mr. Card.
Thank you, sir. The Board of Education extends a recognition to Coach Andre Parker and members of the Princeton 2024 varsity football team for their representation of Princeton High School at the WCPO podcast with Mike Dyer. The event was held at Chick-fil-A in Blue Ash on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024, showcased the team's spirit and dedication. As the new season approaches, the Vikings are poised for success and eagerly anticipate a strong winning performance on the field. Real quick, the reason this is important to me as a former student athlete in high school and college is I remember one time when I was in college, and it's my sophomore year, it was my junior year, after my sophomore year, I didn't handle my business like I was supposed to in the classroom, and my mama told me, you're on the dean's list or you don't come back home. And she meant it. And I remember I made the dean's list, and we were all sitting around at dinner in the Count Commons, and this young lady says, even Elgin's on the dean's list. I said, what? I'm not dumb. And she said, well, you're a football player, though. I said, I'm a student athlete. And they handled themselves so well when we were there that day. Around, it was us, it was the Marymount and Lakota West students, I think it was Marymount, and Lakota West students. They did such a great job representing Princeton, so we want to honor them. So when I call your name, have you come up. Coach Parker's not here. I know he's getting ready for Springfield Thursday, right? So we have Mr. Logan Brown, 12th grader. Just stand right there. I'll be up in a minute. Mr. Tino Brown Freeman, 12th grader. Princeton 12th grader Jamion Overson. And 11th grader Andre Parker. You know what, I'm standing up here because I look short. We don't mind.
We got the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you're right here, I'll get down there.
Okay, right there. There we go. There we go. Come from everybody, okay? Not sure. Who we have here with us? I said hi.
Who's number 5?
Stand up. We appreciate it, young man.
I know that.
Thank you all. I know it's white.
I know them.
If you really grew up.
95-year-old older me.
Okay, we have our consent agenda. Need a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving to district business, number 5, approval of the July 2024 financial report.
I move to approve the July 2024 financial report as presented.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Mrs. Petter?
A couple things from the July financial report. One big difference is that we have an annual item included in this one. So once a year, the board must approve any commercial paper that we invest in. We do invest in commercial paper and has returned well for us. So you have a report of the interest earned and the different pieces of commercial paper that we have purchased. The board approves this, then I submit it to ODU, and then also to the Auditor of State. So this, we then are in compliance with that annual item. So that's that. The financial report, we just rolled over to our new fiscal year. So we have 1 month of fiscal year 25 under our belts. So this report too is simply the rolled forecast. I attend our training that we do twice a year to update everything. We do that in September, where we all sit down and meet and hash our forecasts out together, treasurers from the Southwest area, and then Frontline, who is the provider of the software. And so this is pretty in line so far, which is a good thing. Now, of course, there'll probably be a few little updates, and I'll let you know about those as we run into those. But so this is the rolled forecast. This is the report. The big thing is that last year we did not receive our advance in July from our taxes. This year you'll see that big change here, $22 million in our first advance to help us operate our big collection there. So this will probably have another advance in August, and then it settles quickly in September. The fall settlement is, the second half of a tax year. It does settle much quicker, which we like, helps us get our year off to a good start with money under our belt. The 018 fund report, so this is July, so now we reset this also. So we'll be tracking these revenues and expenses for this fiscal year. So there's not a lot on here. July's not a big revenue or expense month for that 018 corporate donation fund that we have. And then the final report, we're getting down to the last few one of these also, the ESSER funding report. So, we are, we in essence have basically 6 weeks to encumber and spend all this money now. So by the end of September, and then we'll report that out. We have, as of the end of July, just under $250,000 that's unspent, unencumbered. $75,000 of that will go to salary and benefits. And then already in August, we put purchase orders in for another 93. So we are really close to being really
You will spend
almost
it though, right?
spent out of this.
You will spend it though, right?
Absolutely, that
Okay.
was.
That was the goal.
And the team is working really hard. We have been
Thank
at
you.
the state moving money around in cells so we can get it. You have to get them to approve everything you do. So, it's been a lot of work, and the team has done a great job. And we're going to push to the final line, and this next set is get the requisition in, get the product, get the invoice, and go. And they're up to that challenge. They do a great job. And then the other items are just the credit card report, the reconciliation, and the rest of the investment statement. Added in this also is the 22 million. So we received that in July for the facilities project. So now we have another account with that money, and as we move through the project, we'll spend out of that account. So there is another statement in there that you haven't seen before. That is July's financial report.
I
Gina?
have a question. The Ohio auditor now requires government employees to take the mandatory fraud reporting course. How does that apply to school districts?
All school district employees will have to take that. If you receive pay from a school district and you're an employee, you have to take the test.
And they can take
Test.
the
You have to
eight-
watch the video.
Yeah.
It's
Watch the video, 8 minutes.
7 minutes and
Yeah.
55 seconds.
Yeah,
So,
and then they email
And-
you the certificate.
and board members
We're
also.
required to
I'd say
take it
we're
too.
required to take it too.
Yeah. Now, if I already took it, do I have to take it
You
again?
just get us your certificate and you're
I'll
covered.
bring you the certificate.
And Jody will be in the same case, and you'll have to take it for both the
I think I've already-
Oaks and
yeah.
Princeton.
Yeah. I
Because
took
we
it
had
for
us
the
at
city
the
of
state.
Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Just get your certificate.
So-
Susan, you can come over to my house and we can take it.
Work for
Just,
me.
I mean,
Come on to my
it's
house.
done well. It's easy to watch.
It was very nice.
It's
and easy.
not intense at all. It's good information delivered in a really nice format.
Good.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler,
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder,
Yes.
Motion passes. B is resolution authorizing school improvement unlimited tax general obligation refunding bonds.
On behalf of
there-
the treasurer, I move to approve the resolution authorizing school improvement unlimited tax general obligation refunding bonds.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded.
So we have a subset of our debt that can be, in essence, this is just like refinancing your house. So we can take this portion of a debt, it's now allowed to be refinanced. They all have different call dates when you can do. And remember, we have debt from two large building projects. When we did the elementary build and the secondary build, those are separate. We have different types of debt funding all of those. It's just not one piece of debt. It comes callable at different times. If the interest rates are looking good, we're seeing some of the interest rates starting to go down a little bit. So, of course, Kent Cashel and RBC is going to bring this to us, and Dinsmore Shoal and Brad Rui jump in, and they put all the documents together, and we go to the races. The good news about this one is we do not have to go do a full-blown presentation to S&B again, because we just did it for the 22 million. So we have to do a 15-minute update call. Elgin doesn't need, I mean, it's been so recent. Kent, they'll get the Chris and Kent Cashel show, and we're just gonna, I mean, they have to check the box, but we just presented all of that information to them. So we just have to go back to S&P and do it real quickly again, and then we'll refinance. And it's not a huge savings, but again, we take any savings we can, the $175,000 over this portion of this bond, and we should be all wrapped up by October 1, and the press release should head out, and you know we always celebrate when we save taxpayers' money.
Good.
Roll.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler,
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next of district business is the delegate appointment for Ohio School Board Association Annual Business Meeting. And I believe we have Gina Ruffin-Moore standing up for that.
Sure.
She
We
was
talked
last year.
about it.
So someone wants to make the
Who's the
motion
alternate?
for that?
and do we have
Who's
an
the
alternate?
Oh, I would like to nominate Jody Kessler as the alternate.
Good. Just want to make sure we have that. So I move that Gina Ruffin-Moore be appointed delegate for the OSBA Annual Business Meeting on November 11, 2024, with Jody Kessler serving as alternate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Second. Second, if you.
Properly moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Roll?
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes. 5D, approval of agreement with TK Elevator Corporation.
I move to approve the agreement with TK Elevator Corporation as presented.
Second.
Susan?
Properly moved and seconded. Discussion?
This is just to make sure we keep our elevators in good working shape, lubricating and doing the things they need to do, adjusting and things of that nature. So, it's 5 years and then the option.
Where's Otis?
Yeah.
Otis been around a long time, Mr.
Oh, this
Carter.
elevator still exist
Fine,
anymore?
Otis.
Well,
Just
I'm
kidding.
not talking about the former
Yeah,
head of
talk about-
security. I'm talking,
after some conversation, there were some things that weren't really done as well there, so we're going to TK.
All
So
right.
TK's taken out Otis.
Otis,
okay.
time is up.
Wow. Okay. Ms. Better?
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes. Motion passes. E, approval of contract with First Student. Need a motion?
I move to approve the contract with First Student as presented.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Discussion?
As you know, on March 4th, the board approved us to start negotiating as we went through the process, and we finally got that ready to go. We had a little back and forth and some conversations, but we feel good about where we're at, and, you know, we have an existing relationship there as well. So it's always been a pretty good relationship, at least in my year here and what I hear from the other years. So we'll continue with that relationship.
I must say, I look forward to the day when there will be more options besides First Student. Not that they're not doing a good job, but how
But
many times?
we had four.
We had four, okay.
Yeah, and
You
First
took
Student was,
seriously.
yeah, four that put in, that could meet what we wanted. First Student put in, and as we went through the scoring, they scored the highest, and it was about quite a bit of the savings from the other ones as well. Along with the relationship, they were the best for us at this point.
Do they ever take into account that we gave them our supply, our fleet of buses?
As
Or
far
is that
as what?
old news? As far
That
as,
is the old
Yes,
news.
10 years ago,
yeah,
so
but I'm
yeah.
just saying,
But we
and
had some, we
they're
talked a little bit
competing
about that.
against people who had to buy
Appreciated
their
assets.
buses.
They were, the district
Yeah.
was
Well, we- yeah,
compensated.
We were
paid-
compensated
yeah,
for that?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Back then.
back then?
Yes.
The
It's old
fleet
news.
was
All right.
very old. The fleet was
The
very,
fleet wasn't exactly up to
very
date.
old.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Are they having trouble staffing their organization? Was that part of the proposal?
Yeah.
I think
finding
there's
drivers.
staffing everywhere. They've been very good to us in our conversations and in the past about if they don't have someone getting other drivers. Everybody's having some problems.
Yeah.
First Student has the least of anybody I know around, talking to other superintendents and people I've talked to as far as that outsource. So there's some of that there, but they've handled it well, and they've taken care of us when we needed drivers. They pull from other places, whatever the case may be.
Are their employees protected under any type of contract or agreement?
Yeah,
or-
I think they just had a new agreement with First Student, so they're with First Student. And
But they're not AFSCME or any other union? They can't join our
No,
union?
not with us. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what, I'm sure they have a union through First
Yeah.
Student. I don't know the exact name of it. though. I
Do
know
they
it's that.
survey First Student to get a feel for how the employees feel that they're being treated by
As
First Student?
I can say, I know they have. I don't know how soon it's been, last year, probably last fall.
Yeah.
And I'm on the advisory board, so last fall I had met with the CEO.
Yeah.
And we had some conversations. I know they have done some of that.
Oh,
But
that's
I don't know, I
good.
don't know how long ago that was. We didn't.
Oh, it's good to know. You know, because the bus drivers usually have first contact with our students every day. And I was just curious as to whether we're keeping the bus drivers happy so that we can keep the students happy. But that's something that has to be done by First Student too.
Yeah, but
sort
we
of
work
survey
and
them.
talk with them as well. We have a good relationship. In my experiences with bus companies outside, this relationship has been pretty good as far as, I have a year of it. So I'm gonna go
That's
for my
good.
years, but I'm gonna go by.
Thank you.
And since the Princeton Closet happens to be there, I see the drivers every day. And, you know, they come in and talk, sometimes they come in and help, and yes, if they're unhappy about something, they let me know, but, so, just think, if you have a board member there with them every day.
When they tell you they're not happy, what do you do with that information?
We'll
There.
ask them, we'll
Give
just
to
talk
the person
about
next to 'em.
why.
Let me know.
Let me know. and
You
we'll
let the
fix it.
superintendent know. Yeah,
Usually, but
that's good.
usually it's something minimal.
Yeah.
And if I give them a Coke or something, they move on.
Oh, my goodness.
I do have a quick question. On the, I know we provide the fuel for the buses, is that correct? Can we get a breakdown on how much we're paying on fuel?
Oh, that's a
And then
good
how do
question.
we deal with, I know they still can use the buses for events outside of Princeton, at which point they have to provide the fuel. How do we even capture that? And I'm just
Well, if they're
curious,
using
how
our
how
gas,
much are they
they're-
using those buses outside of our district?
We will
And
get
if
that.
so, how are we capturing that fuel issue?
Okay.
Because fuel is expensive,
Yes.
so,
We'll work on that, I'll get it to you.
yeah.
And in the bidding process, everything being all equal, we would have provided fuel for the other bus companies too.
what their RFP
was Okay.
Okay. No other questions? Mrs. Better?
Mrs. Whiter,
Yes,
Mrs. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes,
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler.
Yes.
Motion passes. District Business F, approval of contract with Mercy Health. I have a motion.
I move to approve the contract with Mercy Health as presented.
second,
Properly moved and seconded. Mr. Card?
Mercy Health, you know, we were working with NovaCare. We had a year contract with them, as we had Mercy in the past. Mr. Roberts and I met with Mercy's, some of the main presidents, some other folks there, and had some conversations. Talked about building that relationship back. And we felt like our conversation went well, and they came back with a proposal that was a better proposal than NovaCare. And for me, it felt like we have room for growth here, where I don't know if we had it with the other one. And that's kind of why I think we will move here, and we have a 2-year, and then we'll continue to work with them and grow and go from there.
What do you consider growth?
I mean, just being able to have conversations around things they can do for us, things we can do for them. One thing they mentioned to me when we were talking, they would like to come in and talk to our families and kids about nutrition and healthcare services and how to get involved in healthcare. And that appealed to me. And I think we can continue to grow those things like that, they're giving back as well to our kids. And I know we've talked about all our kids, but I know specifically I've talked to some folks about student athletes and what they're eating and things of that nature. I think they'll help with that and have some conversations around what you should be putting in your body for the fuel and really what you put in your body every day so you can learn in school. And that's some things we want to get them in the building. That was something that I really liked.
that's good.
And then also financial pieces. They're going to take care of 2 of our trainers. 2 of the 3 they'll pay for those. So that was better where we were going to have to pay for all 3. So that really appealed to me as well. Save us a little money.
You said they're paying for 2 and we pay for 1?
Yes.
Right, okay.
And we had that before, but now
I
it's going
know.
to flip to 3. So that was
Okay.
something we wanted to handle. And I'll give Mr. Roberts props for setting that up and getting us together and be able to have those conversations. And they were good conversations.
You know, I know this happened before you were here, but we were under contract with Mercy before. And maybe your staff knows, you might not know. Why did we break off the contract in the first place with Mercy before?
I'm not sure of that. I knew we did because I didn't ask that question. I was when I talked to them, I was looking forward.
Yes.
Because I wasn't here and I can't go back to what happened. I can only do what I can do as I'm superintendent. So we talked about moving forward, and I didn't really talk about going back. So I can find that out for you and get it to you
Yeah.
with some of my staff, but I don't have that answer.
Yeah, because there must have been some strong reason for us to break off the contract with them in the first place.
I don't know that we
I don't know if we
broke it
did.
off.
Oh,
I
they
think
broke it
that-
off?
I
Yeah,
think
that's what
that
I
they
thought.
were in a financial position not to move forward at that time. And so
I
they were
see.
pulling back, not just with us. My understanding, they pulled back in terms of the K-12 relationships that they had. in an effort to save money. I mean, I understood it had to do with money, but not on our part, on their part.
And that's kind of why.
That's good to know.
That's kind of why it was great to get them back to the table and be able to have these
Right.
conversations to
Which
where
is
they're
good.
at. And they, they want to work with us, and that means a lot as well,
Yeah.
right?
So,
To me.
because they were, as I remember, a good partner for us, but they didn't have the funds at the time, so they
Yeah.
pulled back.
Do they provide the team doctor also on Fridays?
Our team doctor we had when I was here years ago, Dr.
He
Galloway,
came back too.
will be here, and he has Princeton ties, and so I think that's,
And
I know in my experience with him, when I was a assistant football coach here, and then after I got done, still have a little relationship with him, just through other people, it was always a positive thing to me. I can't speak for everybody else, but for my relationship with him was always a positive thing.
And I think Thomas Todd, who had an office in Glendale,
Okay. I'm not
was
sure
there
about that.
too.
I didn't know him,
Yes, years ago.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, years ago he was.
Thank you for that background. I knew we had a relationship, but didn't understand or
did.
recall why it was broken off. Thank you.
Well, we're in excellent hands with Dr. Galloway because
but I agree.
he does some work with the Cincinnati Bengals also.
Absolutely.
You kind of feel good when you turn on TV and you see our doctor walking across with
I
the
know,
pro
yeah.
athletes. And then, one of the trainers, I think he's still with the Bengals, was a trainer here when I coached here. So, it's, we have a relationship there with him, and I haven't talked to him for some years, but it's probably 4 or 5 years, but just good people.
Yeah,
That's good.
I think it's a good relationship.
And very good, Mr. Roberts, on the nutrition part, because fried chicken and pizza is not what we need for fuel.
And I will say this, it's hard sometimes to get them young folks to eat right.
Right.
We can give them information. I was young once, and I know I might look at it now, but I was a decent athlete, and, I probably put some things I shouldn't have put in my body as far as pizza and
Pizza
things.
gets a bad rap. It's a
Yeah.
full
does.
meal.
It's got vegetables in
everything.
it.
Has
Well,
the
yeah,
vegetables.
pizza's probably not the best,
Don't
but
say pizza,
yeah.
'cause pizza's
Fried
full of
food,
fat.
things of that nature.
Sausage,
Well,
bacon.
depends on what you put on it,
Ham.
but it
Not
can be a
pizza
full
unless it
meal.
has some
I would
toppings.
agree.
It gets you your protein.
Fried food and things of that nature.
Right.
It's
Make
got
sure you
cheese
hydrate,
and
those types
hydrate,
of things we
right.
talk to everybody about, but, so.
Well, I'm glad, because hopefully I can break my daughter of that curse.
What, the pizza?
The pizza and fried chicken.
No.
Good luck with that.
Good
I'm not
luck.
gonna mention the brand, because
Good
that'll
luck.
get us in trouble. but,
And plus, when you're young, you can eat those things,
Well,
and
you
it doesn't
can't.
go places
Yeah,
when you get older like you do
metabolism is
now.
different.
That's why I look like this now.
Yes. Okay, very good. We,
Vote.
yeah,
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
yes,
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
motion passes. Moving into the discussion phase. Academic update.
We're having Ms. Patty Fong step up and talk about our enrollment numbers as of today, yes, Friday,
August 12th.
August 12th, there we
Yes.
go.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's hard to believe we're going into fiscal year 2025.
I know.
Who would have thought? 30 years for me. It's been a long time, but a good time.
And we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yes, we are.
I'm here to talk about enrollment, where we stand right now, give you a little bit of the historical picture so you can see where we've stayed for the last 5 years. And then I will take any questions that you have. So here is our start of school number for 2024. We're at just under 6,000 at 5,991 students. And if you look back over the 4 years prior, you'll see the same week enrollment data. So you'll see that we haven't changed much over the last 5 years. Also, these numbers do not include our students, our JVS 11th and 12th graders at the Oaks, or the Head Start students who go to our Lincoln Heights and Glendale locations. Here is a breakdown of our diversity. This is updated data as of August 12th. You will see the percentages there. When you get down to where it says economically disadvantaged, that number is a bit low for the reason of many of our families not having current applications on file for this upcoming school year. There's always a big push at the beginning of the year to get all of those applications in by September 30th. So you'll see that number starting to creep up as we go along. We ended last year at 75% economically disadvantaged, so I think that we will be at least there, if not a bit higher. Also, our EL percentage looks a bit low right now. That's because, thanks to the great work of Kelly and her team, we were able to exit 139 English learners who tested as proficient in English. So those students came out of our count. Starting this year, well, not starting this year, we do it every year, but at the start of the year, we start screening our newly enrolled students who may be English learners. We have 30 days to do that, so the EL staff is going to spend the next 30 days doing a whole lot of language screening, and then you can expect to see that number creeping up again also. We ended last year at 25% English learner population. And then you'll see an often asked for number. We are at just under 8% gifted identified in the district. And that, as you know, changes throughout the year as we do our different assessments with students. Whoops, I was supposed to, can you go to the next slide, please? In your packet, you have the economically disadvantaged data by building. Items to note there. Some buildings look a little low. Innovation Center, they look a little low because with students not having lunch there, many of the families don't submit the application for free or reduced lunch because they don't need to. Students do get breakfast in the morning. All students get free breakfast in the morning thanks to food services, and they get a breakfast when they come for the afternoon session, which is really still in the morning. So students get fed, but they don't have the same cafeteria system as we have in the other buildings. Also, Lincoln Heights, Sharonville, and Woodlawn, those are our community eligible buildings. All families, all students get free and reduced lunch, and therefore many parents don't complete the application that they need to because they think, I'm already getting free lunch, why do I need to submit the application? Our messaging this year, however, is because of summer EBT benefits that the state is providing to families who are on free and reduced lunch. They do have to have a current application and be approved to receive free or reduced lunch benefits. So we're really trying to push out the messaging of please submit your application even though you're in a building where all students get free and reduced lunch. The next chart, enrollment by building. Sorry, would you go back one, Chris? Thank you. Ahead one. Thank you. Enrollment by building, that's the 5,991 number, and you'll just see where they are in the district by building and by grade level. We have about 85 enrollment applications still pending that will be processed and students will be enrolled over the next week or two, and we still have families completing enrollment applications. Every day we are getting more. So last year it was probably the third week of September when that started to slow down, so I anticipate that we'll be receiving a lot of applications up through that time. Many families, especially those who are coming to the U.S. for the first time, don't always realize that we start school before Labor Day, so there's always a little bit of a bump right around Labor Day. We have about 65% of our families who have completed their final forms and have signed off on those. The buildings will start pushing out information to get us up to a higher percentage of completion, and that's just for the families going and update their accounts for the new school year. Kindergarten enrollment. We currently have 342 students sitting in full-day slots. Last year we had 305 in full-day slots at this point, and we have 28 half-day students. 20 of those students are at Springdale's half-day, they're in Springdale's half-day classroom. So 20 students are in a half-day classroom that was designed just for half-day, and then there are 8 who are in buildings that have full-day classrooms, but they will be leaving early. 4 of them are at Stewart. I can't recall off the top of my head where the other 4 are, but those buildings are reaching out to those families now, just to remind them that all-day kindergarten is free. We have a spot for you full-day if your child would like to stay in our full-day program. And oftentimes when those calls are made, the parents readily agree, yes, please, full-day. Could you do one more, please? Champions, after-school care, you'll see the numbers there. Students at Woodlawn and Glendale are served through Heritage Hills Champions program. That's why you don't see them on this chart. And then Lincoln Heights has their own program through LHOI, the Lincoln Heights Operational Initiative, Outreach Initiative. Thank you. We just looked up that this morning and it left me already. Thank you. And then would you click ahead for me, please? We now have appointments available for families. They can make an appointment online, and that we're hoping will help eliminate some wait times when folks come in. We're still serving walk-ins, but now we offer appointments. We have a link for English-speaking appointments. We have a link for Spanish-speaking appointments. And then something that families also ask about often is that once we have everything that we need from the parent to enroll the child, and we click that button to enroll, it's a 3 to 5 business day wait before they can actually start school, because we have to get the records, and at the high school they have to build the schedules, and in order to build the most appropriate schedule, we need a little time to do that. And then the 3-day, it's also part of our PACE agreement that teachers have a 3-day window before students begin in class for the first time after we enroll them. So that's the information I have. Do you have any questions for me?
I would quickly just like to say thank you to Patty and her team in the Welcome Center. As I walk by there, sometimes just going in, I like to go out and say hi to new people, let them know who I am and introduce myself. It's starting to pick up pretty heavy, and I know they're grinding to get things done and get kids in as quick as possible. Sometimes people don't understand. They want to come the day and go to school the next day, and there's a process. So I appreciate and we appreciate all you're doing to make sure that things are done the right way for our students
Thank you.
And our staff.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Thank you.
The enrollment doesn't include Great Oaks?
Correct. We have about 151 students who are 11th and 12th grade attending Great Oaks. And the reason that we separated that out is because oftentimes there were questions about funding and headcount. What are you getting funded for versus who are you educating? And since we don't receive funding directly, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris Petter, but since they're taken out of our funding equation, we stopped counting them as attending students just to eliminate some of that confusion.
But they still graduate from Princeton and get the Princeton degree.
Yes.
They graduate from
Diploma.
two schools.
They get
both.
2, yeah,
Ceremony and,
yeah.
There's no programs that allow them to go back and forth?
We have part-time students at the
Yeah, we
Oaks,
do.
and those would be included in our 5,991, where they might take a class or two
Right.
from Great Oaks, but they're
Yeah.
attending our building throughout the day.
So they're only excluded if they're full-time at Great Oaks?
That's correct. Yes.
Probably mentioned this, I had to step away, but
No
for
problem.
preschool, did any of your numbers cover that?
The total number includes preschool, and then if you look at the chart where it says enrollment by building,
It's down at the bottom.
you'll see
Yes,
that down at the
okay.
bottom, you'll see our current preschool numbers. Yep.
So you do have a preschool at Woodlawn?
We have a specialized classroom at Woodlawn for students with disabilities.
So, yeah, not a regular preschool?
Correct.
And that Champions program, how do you determine which school will have the Champions program?
I'm going to have to defer to Dr. Fosna on that question since he
It
oversees
seems like a dynamite
Champions.
program. I went to Meet the Teacher night, I can't remember what school, but that's where I learned more about Champions.
Good evening. To answer your question about which buildings we determined, it just depends on registration and enrollment. Even though Heritage Hills is serving our Woodlawn and Glendale students, we're still advertising at both of those buildings. And if we can reach a healthy number that's above 12 per building, we could open a site back up at those 2 buildings. But as of right now, it's more of a feasible option, sensible option to transport from Heritage Hill. But we're always recruiting, working closely with the Champions team and the KinderCare team to advertise and to generate interest.
So it's mainly an after-school program. Do they, not necessarily learn anything, but it's like a care?
Actually, it's, there's an academic component as
Oh,
well.
there is? Okay.
Yes, so KinderCare is the parent company of Champions, and they provide before-school care and after-school care for students grades K through 5. Doors open as early as 6:30 in the morning, and doors close as late as 6 p.m. So students can roll in within that time frame. There is a curriculum that Champions has designed, and it very much complements what we do throughout the school day. Homework help is provided, supervision, activity, meals are provided. It's fairly comprehensive.
Thank you.
Which schools receive free lunches?
At this point, our community eligible buildings are Sharonville, Woodlawn, and Lincoln Heights.
Sharonville?
That was what we finished last year with. It could change depending on what food services has been able to do with applications. I know that they were trying hard to get at least one of our buildings who had left that list. They were trying really hard to get that building back on the list.
What's community eligibility?
Community eligibility, and you may have to help me fill in, Tanya, it has to do with the economic situation of the community, and if there's a certain percentage of students who are below the poverty line, then the entire school community is eligible for free and reduced lunch. Did I get that right?
You are absolutely correct, and Chris Petter actually works more closely with food services on that piece than I do. But they do take the average percentage of how many forms have been turned in over time, and then I turn it to Chris Petter and Gene Sparks to work the rest of what happens with CEP. Did we miss anything, Mrs. Petter?
Nope. So
So
remember
it's
Heritage,
basically based on this chart.
and Heritage Hill used to be at that level, and they fell off, I think, this year. Was the first year or was it last year?
Last year was the first year.
Just pure percentages.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, number 7, the treasurer's report.
We've received our 2 awards for financial reporting. One from the General Accounting Group and one from Association of School Business Officials, so national. So those are 2 great things to receive. And we have them before audit time, and we like that too, because these are a component in our financial report. And then the other thing is, we did meet with Fitch today. Fitch is another rating entity, and several years ago, we used them when we were doing some debt work, another refinancing. We weren't really happy after the outcome because we were a AA+, and they reduced us to a AA- purely on the way they do some calculations. Well, today we met with them again on a surveillance call, went over financials with them, and they now have a new rubric that they're working with. So Ken Cashel, as he always does, at the end of the call, he's usually asking for an upgrade. And so this time he did, because he was not happy 2 years ago when they did that. And it's purely based on the rubric they were using at the time. And Ohio schools were getting punished in a way. And so the 3 people that were on the phone with us today said that that has been looked at, corrected. So we are expecting to at least return to AA and maybe AA+ with Fitch. We don't use them very often. A lot of the people that are buying our debt are looking more for Moody's or S&P, and we use S&P. So it will be nice to have that. If we do go up, of course, we're going to put out a press release and promote that as a definite positive in our financials. But we did that today. It went really well. So that's all I have.
Very good. Superintendent's report?
Thank you, sir. Last Wednesday, we had our new staff orientation. Went really well. Dr. James and his team and Ms. Petter and others spoke. A lot of the team did, and then I was able to take half of them on a bus tour of the community, and we only have 15 minutes. We don't get everywhere, but just give them an idea of some of our business partners. Miss Roddy was with me, and an idea of where the schools are. We don't usually get to all of them, but we missed two, and then I went the other way.
But you did a good job.
Yeah, yes, and she was with me for one as well. So, there's some stuff I want to clean up with that for next year. So, the air conditioning's loud, so my voice wasn't as good as, my voice is back a little better now, but, so we're going to maybe get a microphone and clean up some things and do some other things, but I think, the folks appreciated it. Except riding on the bus facing the wrong way, Miss Roddy and I got a little queasy, so I had to, hadn't been on the bus for a while, but it was a good time, so. And then, the next day Thursday, we had the convocation, which I felt went really well. We had a very intriguing speaker, and I had a lot of good feedback from the convocation. Really, it's just a time, it's great to see everybody, when our band and cheerleaders and drill team comes out and they're playing Go Princeton Go, it just fires you up. And I remember the first time I seen it was 21 years ago, and I still get as excited as I did then, just to seeing that and the excitement in the air and a lot of positivity, so that was a really good thing. Reminder that tomorrow is the first day of school for our 1st through 5th grade, our 6th graders and our 9th graders. And then Wednesday we'll have 1 through 12, so we're ready to go. So my team and I will be at the high school in the morning, the middle school, and we'll try to get to all the elementaries to greet folks and do all those things. And then Thursday we'll have 1 through 12 plus our preschool and kindergarten will be there. So we'll be excited for that. And then Friday everybody's in, and we'll get this first week done and get moving. But as I told some folks today, summertime's great, and I love the summertime. Get a vacation, do what you do. But being a former teacher, coach, principal, and now superintendent, senior director, now superintendent, I like when the kids are here. When you're in your, being in your office and doing things, but you can get up and go and see kids and watch them grow and see the things they're doing. That's the most exciting thing for me, and I think everybody here will tell you that's why we do it. So that'll be exciting. Also, I wanted to mention, we do have November 5th, our levy for 5 mills is coming up, and you'll be hearing more about that soon. The last levy was 2019, and as I recall, I wasn't here, I was down the street and talking to folks. We thought it was going to be back in 22 because of some good using our money, but with our ESSER money as well helped us. Now we're not going back till 24, 25. So we feel, we're going to get that going. And then the last thing that I forgot to put on here was August 31st is the Lincoln Heights Labor Day Parade. So if you're interested in that, it's always a good time. We were in Glendale for Memorial Day, Sharonville for 4th of July, and now we're going to Lincoln Heights to ride on the Viking ship on August 31st. So that's all I have.
Very good. At this point, we're going to go into executive session to discuss under sections 121.22G1, to consider employment, promotion, and compensation of a public official, and 8 of the Ohio Revised Code. Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, second. Okay. Moved and properly second. Mrs. Petter?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mrs. Kessler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleveland?
Yes.
We are adjourned. There is no anticipated further action after the executive session.